He tossed her out like yesterday's trash because her pockets were empty. Then the bastard had the balls to send her an invitation to watch him marry the millionaire's daughter. What he didn't know was that he wasn't just inviting his ex-wife. He was inviting a witness to his own public execution. What's up, legends? Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this madness, do me a solid and smash that subscribe button. And while you're at it, drop a comment below telling me where you're tuning in from, because you are not going to want to miss a single solitary second of this story. Ava woke up to the familiar taste of cheap instant coffee and despair. It was 4:30 a.m., the hour when the city was still asleep, but poverty was wide awake. She lay still in the lumpy bed, listening to the symphony of their failure. The drip, drip, drip from the rusted kitchen faucet, the groan of the building's ancient pipes, the distant wail of a siren slicing through the pre-dawn gloom. She reached for Leo's side of the bed, a reflex carved from 5 years of marriage. Cold? Empty? Of course. He was always gone before she woke up now. Networking, he'd say, a word that tasted like a lie in his mouth. Meeting a guy about a deal. The deals never came. The money never appeared. There was only the ever-present, suffocating weight of being broke. Ava sighed, the sound swallowed by the silence of their cramped, one-bedroom apartment on the ass end of Mesa Ridge. She swung her legs out of bed, her bare feet hitting the cracked linoleum that was always cold, no matter the season. She pulled on her faded diner uniform, the fabric worn thin over the years, and stared at her reflection in the spotted bathroom mirror. She saw the dark circles under her eyes, the worry lines etching their way across her forehead. She was 27, but some days she felt 100. Across the street, a tattered billboard loomed outside her window. "Dream big," it screamed in faded, peeling letters. Ava used to look at it and feel a spark of hope. Now it was just a cosmic joke, a daily reminder of everything she and Leo weren't. Leo stumbled in well past midnight, smelling of cheap beer and someone else's expensive cologne. Ava had saved a plate for him. Beans and rice, the same meal they'd had for 3 nights straight. It was all they could afford until her paycheck from the diner came through. He slammed the door, the flimsy wood rattling in its frame. He looked at the plate on the table, and his face twisted into a mask of pure disgust. "This shit again?" he spat, the words dripping with contempt. "Are you trying to kill me, Ava? Beans and goddamn rice?" Ava's hands trembled, but she kept her voice even. "It's what we have, Leo. I get paid on Friday. Maybe then we can—" He cut her off with a bitter laugh that sounded like breaking glass. "Friday? Friday is a lifetime away. Why are we living like this? My back is breaking from hauling boxes at the warehouse, and I come home to this slop?" "I worked a double shift today," she said quietly, her spirit shrinking under his rage. "My feet are killing me. We're trying, Leo. We're both trying. You said your friend Mark was getting you an interview at—" "Mark!" He kicked one of the rickety kitchen chairs, sending it clattering against the wall. "Mark doesn't give a damn about me. Nobody does. I'm sick of this, Ava. I am sick of being a loser. I'm sick of the smell of this apartment. I'm sick of wearing clothes with holes in them. And I'm sick of looking at you, wearing that same damn uniform every single day, reminding me of what a failure I am." The cruelty of his words hit her like a physical blow. She sank into a chair, the fight draining out of her. I thought we had each other," she whispered, the words catching in her throat. "We promised. For richer or poorer." Leo stared at the ceiling, his jaw tight. "I don't want this life anymore. I want out." The silence that followed was so profound, it felt like the world had stopped spinning. It was a silence filled with 5 years of broken promises and shattered dreams. She reached for his hand across the small, wobbly table. "Leo, please, remember when we first moved here? We had nothing but a mattress on the floor and a box of ramen, but we were so happy. We can get that back. I can pick up more shifts. I can—" He snatched his hand away as if her touch had burned him. "Don't you get it? I don't want to get it back. I want something new, something better. I want a life where I don't have to count every single penny. I want more than this, Ava. More than you." She blinked back the hot tears that threatened to spill over. "So what is it you want?" He finally looked at her, his eyes cold and distant. "I want to breathe. I want to walk into a store and buy something without checking the price tag. I want to live, just for once, without this constant goddamn struggle." That night, Leo slept on the couch, his back to her. Ava didn't sleep at all. She sat by the window, watching the headlights of cars passing on the street below, each one going somewhere better, somewhere she would never be. She saw a young couple walk by, holding hands and laughing, and a wave of grief so intense it stole her breath washed over her. Where did they go wrong? When did their love become collateral damage in his war against poverty? She made a decision in the quiet darkness of that night. She would fight for him. She would fight for them. Tomorrow she'd beg her boss at the diner for every extra hour he could give her. She'd do anything to see Leo smile again, to bring back the man she had fallen in love with. The next day, Ava worked from sunup to sundown, her body aching with a fatigue that went bone deep. She forced a smile for every customer, refilled every coffee cup, wiped every sticky table. She checked her phone during her 10-minute break, a desperate hope fluttering in her chest. Nothing. No calls. No texts. When she finally dragged herself home, the apartment was dark, but she knew he was there. She found him sitting in the living room, dressed in a crisp new shirt she'd never seen before. "Where did you get that?" she asked, her voice raspy with exhaustion. "It was a gift," he mumbled, not looking at her. "From Isabella." Ava froze, her hand on the refrigerator door. "Isabella? Who's Isabella?" "Someone I met," he said evasively. "Her father owns Sterling Innovations, the tech firm. She thinks she can get me a job there. A real job. A career." A tiny, fragile flicker of hope ignited in Ava's chest. "Leo, that's amazing. I told you things would get better. We can finally start paying off our debts. Maybe we can even—" "Yeah," he said, his tone flat, cutting her off. "Maybe." He stood up, grabbing a jacket from the back of the couch. "I have to go. I'm meeting her and her father for dinner." He left without another word, the soft click of the door echoing the sound of Ava's heart breaking just a little bit more. The days that followed were a blur of loneliness and dread. Leo was never home. When he did show up, it was only to sleep for a few hours before leaving again. He was a ghost in their life, a stranger who shared her bed. Ava poured herself into her work, saving every dollar, eating leftover scraps from the diner just to cut down on their grocery bill. She was fighting a war he had already surrendered. One evening, he came home earlier than usual. He didn't turn on the lights, just sat on the edge of the couch, a dark silhouette against the dying light from the window. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. He took a long, shaky breath. "I met with Mr. Sterling and Isabella again today." He paused. "They offered me a job, a junior executive position. It pays more than we make in a year combined." A wave of relief so powerful it made her dizzy washed over Ava. "Oh, Leo, that's incredible. I knew you could do it. I'm so proud of you. Now we can finally—" "There's a catch," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "They think I'm single." The air left Ava's lungs. "What?" He finally stood up and faced her, his expression a mixture of shame and grim determination. "Isabella? She's into me, Ava. Her father, he trusts me because of her. They think I'm this ambitious guy, struggling all on my own to make it in the world. They don't know about you. They don't know about us." Ava took a step back, the cold linoleum floor seeming to drop out from under her. "What are you saying, Leo?" He couldn't meet her eyes. "I'm saying, maybe it's time we went our separate ways. This is my one shot, Ava. My only shot. I can't mess this up." The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. "No," she choked out. "No, Leo. We can fix this. We always fix things. Don't do this. Don't throw away 5 years of our lives." He shook his head, a single devastating motion. "I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing a different path. I need to do this for me." Her legs buckled, and she slid down the wall to the floor, hot tears streaming down her face, a raw animal sound of pain escaping her lips. "Please, Leo, please don't leave me. I love you. You're everything I have." His voice was devoid of all emotion. "I'm sorry, Ava, but I can't live like this anymore. I want more." He walked into the bedroom, and she heard the sound of drawers opening, the rustle of clothes being thrown into a bag. Each sound was a nail being hammered into the coffin of their marriage. She sobbed, her body racked with a grief so profound she felt like she was being torn in two. The next morning, the apartment was silent. His clothes were gone. His toothbrush was gone. The only things he left behind were his wedding ring and a single folded piece of paper on the kitchen table. "Ava, I'm sorry. I have to do this. Don't try to contact me." That was it. 5 years, erased in a single cowardly note. Ava drifted through the following weeks in a fog of shock and pain. She was a machine, a ghost. Go to work, serve the food, come home, cry, repeat. She ignored the worried calls from her family, unable to voice the shame of being abandoned. The only person she confided in was Chloe, her best friend who worked alongside her at the diner. One night, as they were closing up, Chloe cornered her in the stockroom. "You look like death, Ava. You have to talk to me." Ava just shook her head, too broken to form the words. Chloe wrapped her arms around her. "He's a fool, a goddamn fool. You deserve so much better than that spineless coward." Ava wanted to believe her, but the ache in her chest, the hollow space where her heart used to be, told her a different story. Then, 2 weeks after Leo had vanished from her life, a thick, cream-colored envelope arrived in the mail. It had no return address, but she recognized his sharp, angry handwriting instantly. Her hands shook so badly she could barely tear it open. Inside was a heavy, glossy card, embossed with gleaming gold script. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Leo Vance and Isabella Sterling." Ava stared at it, the words blurring through her tears. She saw the date, less than a month from the day he had walked out. At the bottom, a handwritten note in his familiar scrawl. "We hope you can join us on this joyful occasion." It wasn't an invitation. It was a final twist of the knife. Chloe found her in the back of the diner. The invitation crumpled in her fist, silent tears tracing paths through the flour on her cheeks. Chloe smoothed out the card, her eyes widening in disbelief, then narrowing in pure, unadulterated rage. "This is sick," she hissed, her voice trembling with fury. "This is a new level of psychopathic cruelty. He's actually inviting you to watch him marry the woman he left you for." Ava wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "He wants to humiliate me," she whispered. "He wants to show me what he won, that his new life is so much better, and I was the one holding him back." "Don't you dare believe that for a second," Chloe said, her voice fierce. He's the one who gave up. He's the one who's weak. You are a survivor, Ava." Ava stared at the invitation, at the elegant script spelling out her replacement's name. A new feeling began to smolder beneath the grief. Anger. A cold, hard, clarifying anger. "I have to go," she said, her voice stronger now. "I have to go, Chloe. I need to look him in the eye. I need to see for myself what kind of monster he's become." Chloe hugged her, a fierce, protective embrace. "Then you're not going alone. I'm going with you, every step of the way." That night, Ava sat by her window and looked out at that stupid, peeling billboard. Dream big. For the first time in a long, long time, she didn't feel hopeless. She felt the slow burn of righteous fury. She would go to his wedding. She would face the woman who had replaced her. And she would find out the whole unvarnished truth, no matter how much it hurt. What she couldn't possibly know, what no one in that city could have predicted, was that the truth wouldn't just hurt, it would detonate, and the fallout would be spectacular. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button and become part of our story-loving community. We're telling the stories that matter, the ones that give a voice to the voiceless. And please, drop a comment below and let us know how this story is hitting you so far. The week leading up to the wedding was a strange, suspended reality for Ava. She moved through her life like a diver moving through deep water, every action deliberate and slow, weighted by a mixture of crippling dread and a burning, obsessive curiosity. The invitation sat on her nightstand, a malevolent presence in her small apartment. Its golden letters would catch the dim glow of her bedside lamp, mocking her with its promise of a joyful occasion. She would pick it up, run her fingers over the embossed names, Leo and Isabella, as if the texture of the cardstock could somehow explain the complete implosion of her life. The day of the wedding dawned bright and cruelly beautiful. Chloe arrived at Ava's apartment at noon, carrying a garment bag and an expression of grim determination that bordered on warlike. "There is no way in hell you are wearing your diner uniform to this fiasco," Chloe announced, marching past Ava and hanging the bag on her bedroom door. Ava, who had been staring blankly at her two presentable, threadbare dresses, looked at her friend. "I don't have anything else, Chloe." Chloe unzipped the bag with a flourish. "You do now." She pulled out a dress of deep midnight blue. It was simple, elegant, and made of a soft, flowing material that seemed to drink the light. "Borrowed it from my sister. It's your size. Now go put it on. We're going to war, and you need to be wearing your armor." Reluctantly, Ava took the dress into the bathroom. As she slipped it on, something shifted. The fabric felt cool and smooth against her skin, a stark contrast to the rough, worn cotton of her daily life. She looked in the mirror, and for the first time in months, she didn't see a broken, abandoned woman. She saw Ava. She saw a glimmer of the person she was before Leo had hollowed her out. The dress fit as if it were made for her, its simple lines giving her a quiet dignity she thought she had lost forever. Chloe zipped her up, her hands gentle on Ava's back. "You look beautiful," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "No matter what happens today, you remember who you are. You remember your worth." Ava managed a small, watery smile. "Thank you, Chloe, for everything." They arrived at the Sterling Grand Hotel, a palace of marble and glass that seemed to scrape the sky. It was a world away from their side of town, a different planet entirely. As they walked through the towering glass doors, the sheer opulence of the place was staggering. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars hung from impossibly high ceilings, casting a diamond-like glitter over everything. The air smelled of money and thousands of white lilies. Ava felt her courage falter. She was a stray dog that had wandered into a purebred dog show. As she and Chloe stepped into the grand ballroom, a ripple went through the crowd of beautifully dressed guests. Heads turned. Whispers followed them like a trail of snakes. "Is that her? The ex-wife? My God, she actually came. What is she wearing? Did she rent that? She must be desperate for a scene. How pathetic." Ava's hand tightened on Chloe's arm, her knuckles white. She kept her eyes fixed straight ahead, focusing on the massive floral arrangement at the front of the room, trying to block out the judgmental stares and the venomous whispers that pricked at her skin. A snooty usher in a perfectly tailored tuxedo stopped them, his nose wrinkled in disdain. "Invitation?" he asked, his tone implying they had probably stolen it. Ava silently handed him the card. He glanced at it, his eyes flicking from the invitation to her face, a smirk playing on his lips. "Right this way," he said, leading them not to a respectable seat, but to a small table in the far back corner of the enormous ballroom, behind a pillar. It was a clear, calculated insult. Chloe squeezed Ava's arm. "Ignore them!" she whispered fiercely. "You are not here for these jackals! You're here for you!" The ceremony began. A string quartet played something classical and heartbreakingly beautiful. Isabella glided down the aisle on her father's arm, a vision in a cloud of white lace and diamonds. She was breathtaking. Mr. Sterling, a man who radiated power and authority, beamed with pride. And there, at the altar, stood Leo. He looked handsome, confident, and utterly alien in his expensive tuxedo. He looked like the man he had always wanted to be. As the guests rose, their phones held aloft to capture the moment, Ava felt a storm raging inside her, a hurricane of betrayal, grief, and a white-hot anger that threatened to consume her. She looked at the man she had loved, the man she had starved for, the man she had built her life around. And all she saw was a stranger. After the vows were exchanged, the reception began. Waiters in white gloves moved silently through the room with trays of champagne and impossibly delicate appetizers. Ava sat at her table, pushing a piece of salmon around her plate with a fork, the food tasteless in her mouth. She felt a presence beside her and looked up to see Leo's mother, a woman who had only ever looked at Ava with thinly veiled disappointment. "I can't believe you had the nerve to come," she said, her voice as cold as the ice in her drink. Ava met her gaze. "He invited me." His mother sniffed, a sound of pure condescension. "Well, I trust you won't make a scene. Isabella's family is one of the most respected in this state. Do try not to embarrass David or yourself any more than you already have." Ava clenched her jaw, the muscles tight with restraint. "I'm not here to cause trouble. I just came to wish him well." "See that you do," she said, before turning and gliding away. Chloe glared at her retreating back. "What an absolute witch!" Ava let out a long, slow breath. "She always hated me. Told Leo I was dragging him down. I guess she finally got her wish." The lights dimmed, and a spotlight found Mr. Sterling as he took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice boomed through the ballroom, "today we celebrate not just a marriage but a merger, a union of two families, and the bright future of Sterling Innovations with my new son-in-law Leo by my side." He raised his glass. The room erupted in applause. Then it was Leo's turn. He took the microphone, a smug, triumphant smile on his face. The room fell silent. Ava's heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought it might break through. Leo scanned the crowd, his eyes briefly, dismissively, flicking over Ava before settling on his new bride. "When I met Isabella," he began, his voice smooth and practiced, "I was at a low point in my life. I was burdened by the past, held back by circumstances, trying to make something of myself in a world that didn't seem to want me. But Isabella, she saw past all of that. She saw potential. She believed in me when others only saw my failures. Every word was a perfectly aimed dart, and Ava felt each one pierce her skin. He continued, his voice swelling with false emotion. Sometimes in life, you have to shed your old skin to grow. You have to be willing to leave behind the things that are holding you down to reach for something greater. I am so grateful for this second chance, a chance to start over, to build something real, something lasting. Thank you, Isabella, for saving me. The guests applauded wildly. Isabella beamed, tears of joy in her eyes. Ava looked down at her hands, clenching them into fists in her lap to stop them from shaking, a silent, solitary tear escaping and tracing a hot path down her cheek. After the speeches, as the band started to play, a group of Isabella's cousins walked past their table, their voices loud and careless. That's her, right? The ex? God, I heard she was dirt poor. Can you believe she showed up? Talk about having no shame. I guess she just wanted one last look at what she lost. Chloe's face was red with fury. That's it. Let's get some air, now. She pulled Ava out onto a marble balcony overlooking the glittering city skyline. Ava leaned against the cold stone railing, taking a deep, shuddering breath, the cool night air a balm on her burning face. Why, Chloe? She whispered, her voice breaking. Why did he want me here? Just to torture me? Chloe put a steadying arm around her. No, he wanted to see you break. He wanted to parade his victory in front of you to justify the shitty thing he did. But you haven't broken, Ava. You're still standing. You are so much stronger than he will ever be. Ava managed a weak smile. I hope you're right. They went back inside just as the music was fading. Mr. Sterling was at the microphone again, but this time, the jovial, celebratory energy was gone. His face was grim. If I could have everyone's attention, please, he said, his voice cutting through the chatter. Before we cut the cake, there is a matter of business I feel compelled to address. Leo looked confused. Isabella glanced at her father, a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Mr. Sterling continued, his voice dropping, becoming harder. In my world, a man's character is his currency. We believe in integrity. We believe in honesty. And we believe that a foundation built on lies will inevitably crumble. That's why, before I gave my blessing to this union, I felt it was my duty to do my due diligence. I had my security team look a little deeper into the man my daughter had chosen. A dead silence fell over the ballroom. You could have heard a pin drop. David forced a nervous laugh. Mr. Sterling, what is this all about? Mr. Sterling ignored him, his gaze sweeping over the crowd until it landed, with unnerving precision, on Ava. What I found was illuminating. I learned that Leo was not the struggling loner he claimed to be. I learned that he was, in fact, married for 5 years. I learned that he left his wife, Ava, a woman who worked double shifts at a diner to support his dreams, because he was offered what he perceived to be a more profitable opportunity. Gasps rippled through the room, every single eye swiveled from Mr. Sterling to Leo, and then to Ava, sitting in the back, suddenly thrust into the center of a nightmare. Leo's face went chalk white. He looked like he had been struck by lightning. Isabella turned to him, her voice a horrified whisper. Leo, is that true? He stammered, his confident facade shattering into a million pieces. We weren't right for each other. She didn't understand my ambition. Enough, Mr. Sterling's voice cracked like a whip. I value loyalty and honesty above all else. A man who will lie about his past to get ahead is a man who cannot be trusted with my daughter, or my company. If you cannot own your mistakes, You are not the man I thought you were." The tension in the room was so thick it was hard to breathe. Mr. Sterling then turned his attention fully to Ava. His eyes, which had been so hard, softened with something that looked like respect. "Ava," he said, his voice echoing through the silent hall, "I am profoundly sorry for what you have been put through. You deserved better." Ava's lips trembled. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Isabella, her face a mask of shock and betrayal, stumbled away from the altar, pushing past Leo as if he were a stranger. She stopped directly in front of Ava's table. "I had no idea," she said, her voice breaking, tears streaming down her face. He told me you held him back, that you were bitter and unsupportive. I believed him. I am so sorry." Ava shook her head numbly. "He told me I wasn't enough." Isabella spun around, her eyes blazing with a fury Ava recognized. She faced Leo across the crowded room. "How could you?" she screamed, her voice raw with pain. "How could you do this to her? How could you do this to me?" Leo just stood there, speechless, his world collapsing around him in real time. Mr. Sterling addressed the stunned crowd. "The wedding is off. The celebration is over." Overwhelmed, Ava stood up to leave, to escape the hundreds of eyes now fixed on her. But Isabella reached out and grabbed her hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "Wait," she pleaded, her eyes desperate. "Please, I need to talk to you." Just then, Leo finally found his voice, a pathetic, shaky sound. "Ava, please don't go. Let me explain." But Ava didn't look at him. She looked at Isabella, the woman who was supposed to be her enemy, and saw only another victim of his lies. Chloe appeared at her side, a protective shield. "She doesn't owe you anything." Ava turned to Isabella, her voice quiet but steady. "What do you want to know?" Isabella took a shaky breath. "I want to know the truth, all of it." Ava nodded slowly, a sense of calm settling over her. "You'll get it, but not here. Not like this." The grand hall, a moment ago the scene of a fairy tale wedding, now felt like a courtroom. The glittering chandeliers seemed to mock the ugly truth that had just been exposed. And in the center of it all stood Ava, no longer a forgotten ex-wife in the shadows, but a woman whose story was about to change everything. The magnificent ballroom, once filled with laughter and the clinking of champagne glasses, was now a cavern of suffocating silence. The staff moved quietly, clearing away the untouched food and decorations of a wedding that was now a funeral. Most of the guests had been ushered out, leaving only the key players in the drama. The Sterling family, Leo's horrified mother, Leo himself, and Ava, with Chloe standing steadfastly by her side. Leo stood alone by the lavishly decorated stage, a pathetic figure twisting the brand-new wedding band on his finger. Isabella had retreated to her father's side, her beautiful face streaked with mascara, her eyes shifting between Leo's crumbling form and Ava's quiet composure. Mr. Sterling's expression was carved from granite. He was the first to speak, his voice resonating with cold authority. "I invited my friends and family here to witness a commitment, not a con. Leo, you have one final opportunity to be honest. The lies are over. The floor is yours." Leo swallowed, his throat working. All the arrogance and swagger had evaporated, leaving behind a terrified, cornered man. I never meant for any of this to happen," he began, his voice thin and reedy. "I just wanted a better life. I truly thought Ava and I were over. We had nothing. Every single day was a fight to survive. It was hopeless." He risked a glance at Ava, a desperate plea in his eyes. "I tried, I swear I did, but I was so tired of fighting. When I met Isabella, it felt like Like I could finally be happy. Isabella's voice, when she spoke, was laced with ice. You told me you were divorced. You told me your marriage was a youthful mistake, and that she never supported a single dream you had. You painted her as a villain. Ava's fists clenched in her lap. The urge to stay silent, to just walk away, was powerful. But she had come for the truth. That's a lie, she said, her voice surprisingly strong, cutting through the tension. I worked 2 jobs so he could quit the one he hated. I went without so he could buy books for night classes he never finished. I believed in him, even when he had stopped believing in himself. Isabella's gaze shot back to Leo, her hurt morphing into pure fury. Why did you lie to me? Why build this entire relationship on a foundation of deceit? Leo took a stumbling step towards her, his hand outstretched. Because I didn't want to lose you, your father. He would never have approved of me if he knew the truth about where I came from, about my past. Mr. Sterling interrupted, his voice sharp and final. You are damn right about that. I built an empire on handshakes and my word. I cannot have a man in my family, let alone my company, who runs from his past and builds his future on the backs of people he's willing to betray. For the first time, raw, primal fear flashed in Leo's eyes. This was it, the end of the line. Isabella stepped away from him, shaking her head slowly, a look of profound disgust on her face. You didn't just lie. You used me. You used my family's name and our money. And you used her, she said, gesturing to Ava. You threw away 5 years with her for a shortcut. All of this was for what? To play dress-up as someone you're not? Leo's voice was barely a whisper. I just wanted a chance. Ava finally stood, every eye in the room on her. Her voice was calm, clear, and utterly devastating. You had a chance, Leo. You had 1,000 chances. Every morning you woke up next to me was a chance. But you were always looking for an escape hatch, never a solution. You weren't tired of being poor. You were tired of the work it took to get out. I was never the problem. Your lack of character was. The silence that followed was absolute. Mr. Sterling adjusted his tuxedo jacket, a final, decisive gesture. As of this moment, any and all business arrangements are terminated. There will be no partnership. There will be no marriage. Leo, you are no longer welcome in my company or my home. I cannot trust you. Leo's shoulders sagged in defeat. He looked from Mr. Sterling's stony face to Isabella's tear-stained one, and finally to Ava. Please, he begged, the single word encompassing the total wreckage of his life. I can fix this. I can make it right. Mr. Sterling's eyes were like chips of ice. I am not a fool, son. You've already shown me exactly who you are. I suggest you leave. Isabella walked over to Ava, her gaze filled with a sorrow that was almost overwhelming. I wish I had met you before all of this. I believed every lie he told me. I am so sorry, Ava, for my part in your pain. Ava felt a lump form in her throat. None of this was your fault, Isabella. You were deceived just as much as I was. The truth just took its time showing up to the party. Chloe gently tugged on Ava's arm. Let's get out of here. You've had enough. But Isabella stopped her. Wait, please, how did you do it? After everything he put you through, how did you survive? Iva looked at this beautiful, wealthy woman who had everything she had ever dreamed of, and saw in her eyes a shared, painful understanding. Her answer was simple, quiet, and profound. I remembered who I was before I met him, Ava said. I remembered that I was strong on my own. I was whole on my own. And I realized no man has the power to take that away from you unless you let him. Isabella nodded, a newfound respect dawning in her eyes. Leo had collapsed into a chair at the front of the deserted ballroom. His mother, after a moment of stunned paralysis, simply turned and walked out without a word to him. The remaining guests, who had been gossiping in the foyer, fell silent as they watched an extraordinary sight. Ava walking out of the hotel, not with her head bowed in shame, but held high, with Chloe on one side and Isabella, the spurned bride, on the other. The narrative had flipped. The poor, pathetic ex-wife was no longer an object of pity, but a symbol of astonishing grace and strength. As Ava stepped out into the cool night air, she took a deep breath. The crushing weight that she had been carrying on her shoulders for months, for years, finally lifted. The city lights of Mesa Ridge spread out before her, no longer a symbol of everything she couldn't have, but a landscape of possibility. She had walked into that hotel a victim. She was walking out a survivor. The truth was out. And what happened next, for the first time in a very long time, was entirely up to her. The days following the spectacular implosion of the Sterling Vance wedding were surreal for Ava. It was as if she had been living her life in a muted, gray fog, and someone had suddenly turned the color back on. The story became the talk of Mesa Ridge, spreading like wildfire from the penthouses of the elite to the humble booths of the diner where she worked. But the whispers she overheard were no longer laced with pity or mockery. They were filled with awe. She wasn't the woman who got dumped anymore. She was the woman who had stood her ground with quiet dignity and watched a liar get his public comeuppance. One dreary Tuesday afternoon, as Ava was wiping down the counter at the diner, the bell above the door chimed. Mr. Sterling and Isabella walked in. The handful of regulars fell silent. Coffee cups paused midway to their lips. Mr. Sterling, looking as imposing in a business suit as he had in a tuxedo, approached the counter. His expression was serious, but his eyes were kind. "Ava," he began, his voice a low rumble. "I hope we aren't intruding. We wanted to see how you were doing." Ava put down her rag, her heart giving a nervous flutter. "Of course. I'm okay." Isabella stepped forward, offering a small, genuine smile. "I wanted to thank you again," she said, "for your grace through all of this. You didn't have to be kind to me, but you were." "You did nothing wrong," Ava said simply. Mr. Sterling cleared his throat. "Ava, I've been in business for 40 years. I know talent when I see it, but more than that, I know character. I've seen how hard you work, how you carry yourself. I respect grit more than I respect a Harvard MBA. I have a business proposal for you." Ava raised an eyebrow, completely bewildered. "A proposal?" He nodded. "I would like to invest in this diner. Not as a handout, but as a partnership. I want to help you expand, renovate, maybe even open a second location. You possess an asset that is incredibly rare and cannot be taught. Integrity. That is something I am always willing to bet on." Ava stared at him, speechless. She felt a prickling behind her eyes. "Why?" she managed to ask. "Why me?" Isabella answered for him. "Because you never gave up on yourself, Ava. Even when the man who was supposed to love you most did." Ava took a deep, steadying breath, fighting back the tears. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But if I accept, I have to earn it. Every penny. I need to do this for me, to prove to myself that I can build something." Mr. Sterling's face broke into a rare, genuine smile. He extended his hand across the counter. "That's all I needed to hear." Ava shook his hand, the grip firm and respectful. For the first time, her future felt not like a terrifying unknown, but like a blank page she finally had the power to write on. A week later, a text message lit up her phone. It was from Leo. "Can we meet?" "Just once. I need to talk." She almost deleted it. But she knew for her own peace of mind she needed to close this chapter completely. She agreed to meet him at a small, neglected park bench where they used to sit years ago, sharing a hot dog and dreaming about the future. He looked terrible. He had lost weight, and his eyes were hollowed out, haunted. The expensive clothes hung off his frame, looking like a costume he had forgotten to take off. "Ava," he started, his voice cracking. "I don't even know where to begin. I destroyed everything. I hurt you. I hurt Isabella. I hurt everyone who ever believed in me. I wanted everything so badly, and now I have absolutely nothing." Ava looked at the man who had caused her so much pain, and she felt not anger, but a profound, weary pity. "The mistake you made, Leo, wasn't wanting more. It was thinking you could get it by stepping on other people. You wanted the view from the top of the mountain, but you never wanted to do the climbing." He nodded, shamefaced. "Is there any chance, any way you can ever forgive me?" She let out a long sigh, and with it, the last vestiges of her anger seemed to dissolve. "I forgive you, Leo. I have to. Not for you, but for me. I can't carry that hate around anymore. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it certainly doesn't mean going back." He looked down at his hands, a broken man. "Thank you," he whispered. I hope one day I can become the man you once thought I was." She stood up, ready to leave him and her past on that park bench. "I hope so too, Leo, for your sake. Take care of yourself." As she walked away, she didn't look back. She felt lighter. She felt free. The following months were a whirlwind of activity. With Mr. Sterling's backing and business acumen, Ava poured her heart and soul into the diner. They renovated, expanded the menu, and hired more staff. The community rallied around her, her story becoming a local legend. The diner with a heart, they called it. She was even featured in the Mesa Ridge Gazette. Isabella became a frequent visitor, and a surprising friendship blossomed between the two women, forged in the fires of Leo's betrayal. They were bonded by a shared experience, but also by a mutual respect for each other's resilience. One sunny afternoon, as Ava was training a new waitress, Isabella sat at the counter, sipping a coffee. "If you had told me a year ago that this is where we'd be," she said with a grin, "I would have said you were crazy." Ava laughed, a sound that was now full and genuine. "Me too, but I wouldn't change a thing." Chloe, promoted to manager, ran the diner with fierce loyalty and efficiency. The three of them, Ava, Chloe, and Isabella, formed an unlikely but unbreakable team. Ava became more than just a survivor. She became an inspiration. Her story was a testament to the fact that integrity is a superpower, that strength isn't about never falling, but about how you get back up. She never forgot the pain of being left, of being told she wasn't enough. But she had learned that those moments don't have to be the end of your story. Sometimes they are the violent, necessary beginning of a better one. Her life wasn't a fairy tale. It was something far more valuable. It was real. She had lost a marriage built on a lie, but she had found herself. She had been betrayed by one person, but in the process had gained the loyalty and respect of many. She had been broken, but she had put herself back together, stronger and more beautiful than before. The ultimate moral of this story is etched into the walls of her bustling diner. True wealth is not measured in dollars, but in character. Your real value isn't in who you know or what you own, but in how you treat people when you think no one is watching. Betrayal may leave a scar, but it is integrity, honesty, and the courage to rise from the ashes that build a legacy that can never be torn down. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey. If this story touched you, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another one. We'll see you in the next story.